Michael Tracy, TYT here. I am in San Diego tonight for a joint town hall featuring Representative Scott Peters and Representative Susan Davis, both of San Diego and San Diego area. What I'm curious to see is if the people who are populating this event apply the same pressure to these Democratic politicians that they've applied across the country to Republican members of Congress, or will it be sort of a placid, non-confrontational approach? I'd probably favor a more confrontational approach, but we'll see how these people feel. So that's my prerogative in being here. So let's see how it goes. So what is Indivisible? How would you define it? How did it come about in this particular area? How is it sort of structured?
Indivisible is a grassroots kind of an uprising, and its main points are to resist the Trump agenda and to hold on to some of the the gains we've made, progressive gains that we've made, as a country, and just to fight back.
I have to tell you, whenever I'm on the internet, I'm flooded with accusations that Indivisible is AstroTurf, that it's funded by these sinister billionaires or something. So are you being paid to do this?
Absolutely not. I'm just a community member. I'm a local artist, and after the election, I thought it was time to step up and start holding our representatives accountable for some of the scary legislation that's been proposed and some of the things that have already been proposed. And everybody that I've been out with, from rallies to meeting with our Congress people, they are all individual community members that are not getting paid, and they're just here to have their voices heard, and that's the most important thing.
So how did you hear about this event?
I belong to an organization, Together We Will, and through that I get email alerts. I also go to meetings, and that's how I found out about this particular meeting.
Now, people have showed up to largely Republican town hall meetings lately and caused a bit of a ruckus, tried to hold them accountable for various issues. What is the role that you perceive yourself as having at a Democratic town hall, which is what we're at tonight?
Well, basically I'm here tonight to gain knowledge on how I can get involved and help to represent those that can't represent themselves, and how to voice concern when I have it, and how to change and be effective in today's political environment.
If you go on the internet, there are a lot of conspiracies floating around that the people who are showing up to these events are being paid, or it's some kind of coordinated turnout by nefarious billionaires and that kind of thing. Does that apply to you?
God, no. There's not enough money to pay me to do something that I don't believe in.
You may not understand this, because I certainly didn't, but because of our allegiance to the rules of the Congress and the ethics, we actually are not allowed to connect you with grassroots organizations. We can encourage you to get involved, but that's about as far as it can go. And so by being able to open this up this evening and have people here who you can connect with, we hope that we're kind of having a one-stop shop here so people can get involved.
I've been trying for years to get people to understand that what I do is important, and every once in a while my wife thinks it is. But unfortunately it took the election of Donald Trump to remind people that we are fighting for our democracy today and every day. We've been doing it for 210 years.
But the Democrats lost a lot of races in November, and whatever your brand of Democrat, we all lost, okay?
I walked precincts for Hillary Clinton and for Barack Obama. When I walked the precincts, I walked the same ones each year. And the people I walked were working people, 2 and 3 jobs. Even the ones who said they were voting Democratic couldn't tell me what the Democrats stood for. So I'm here to ask you in front of God and everybody, what the heck does a Democrat stand for?
What do Democrats stand for? Well, standing up for what's right, and the notion that everyone gets a chance and everyone gets to be treated fairly. That's one thing. And I think the other side of that is an opportunity. Democrats stand for everyone getting that same opportunity to get the American dream. If they work hard, and they're not making excuses, but everyone deserves that opportunity. To me, that's what it's about. So that's why I'm working on what we can do to give opportunities to people to get jobs that pay well, to get an education so they can compete in this new economy, give everybody the same shot that I got, whatever their race, color, creed.
The DNC, the DCCC, and the Democratic political leadership oversaw the most epic and historic failure in the history of liberal democracy. What are specifically the two of you going to do to reorient the leadership of the Democrats in Washington and across the country so that the same thinking does not pervade the 2018 election, because Twitter and Facebook are not going to get back those voters that we lost in this last election?
I agree with you. I'm not satisfied that we had a success. Democrats are at the lowest level of elected officials since 1928. I was one of the people who periscoped the gun sit-in. Remember that, right? Oh yeah. So we all loved it. One of the most popular things I did, I mean, everybody in my district, not everybody, but very popular in my district to support reasonable gun safety laws. My friend Rick Nolan, who's a 70s liberal from northern Minnesota, right? He went to the gun sit-in and almost lost his race because of it. You would love Rick Nolan's politics. But on this issue, it really hurt him. And so I think we have to think about rural voters and how they see things differently. And maybe the next time we do a sit-in, it's about jobs, okay, which we all can agree on. So I don't want to say that that's the only thing, but I do think in general, we have to figure out what it is. When we look at those voters, we think obviously they're for us, but they're not. And we need to do a little bit more listening about why that is. And I hope that the D-Trip will engage in that this time.
Many of us progressives feel taken for granted by the Democratic Party. The vibe is, well, what are you going to do? Vote Republican? Well, it turns out we're just not going to vote at all in many cases, and that makes me very sad. Not you, the Democratic Party has lost 1,000 seats more than 1,000 seats between state houses, the representatives, and the Senate. What are you going to do policy-wise and perception-wise to bring progressives to this fight against Donald Trump? Thank you.
The first thing I just wanted to say is there have been some victories, perhaps small ones. We know that the Republicans wanted to ignore ethics. We fought that changed. Worked hard.
Second thing, we can fight with each other if you want. I suggest it's counterproductive.
You both have great records when it comes to social issues, and I'm very appreciative. I'm in your district, Congresswoman. But you both supported the TPP, which was something that was written in secret, no transparency, no accountability. It had a clause in it which basically said arbitrators appointed by corporations, not elected, not answerable to the American people, can make decisions that can override our labor laws, and as a lawyer, our environmental laws. And when I heard you two were doing it, I'm sure your office hated me. I was calling your office every day and saying, it can't be right. She can't be supporting this. And I would love to understand your thinking.
I think it's an issue that we were working with people and trying to push that agenda further. And when I say further, I think we wanted to make it more labor friendly, more environmental friendly, although we really do have a number of tenets in that I think separately people liked. But together as a whole bill, I think people had obvious problems with.
I gave President Obama a lot of credit for trying to negotiate something that would raise standards for workers around the world. We're talking about renegotiating NAFTA. Unfortunately, those standards will not have been raised because maybe we can do separate agreements. We didn't raise those standards for those workers, and our workers have to compete against them still. Second, we comply with a lot of environmental restrictions that other countries don't abide by. But in order to get access to this agreement, they were willing to lift their standards for environmental protection, which both helped the earth, but also cost them some money that we were paying out of our workers were paying. And they would protect intellectual property. So it wasn't a perfect deal. There was no way it was a perfect deal.
So a gentleman here said tonight that one word that he only heard 3 times was jobs. And the word that I haven't heard tonight is race. It is the elephant in this room. And so I'm going to take one little piece of that because it's a big thing. 40,000 of us marched in San Diego at the Women's March. And millions of us around the country, and we patted ourselves on the back for how peaceful it was, which is code for look at how we do it better. A friend of mine, Pam Hardy McFarland, said she saw our picture on Facebook or on Twitter and said, "Is the crowd as white as it looks there?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." So we pat ourselves on the back for having a peaceful protest when the police who were there at these marches were not militarized, like the police that met with the indigenous people in Standing Rock. They are not militarized. They were not militarized like they are at the Black Lives Matter protests. They are not militarized like they are down in El Cajon when the El Cajon Police Department murdered Alfredo Longo, an unarmed man having a mental break. I was down there. They were peaceful protests. And the police went and set up a watchtower in the parking lot where that man was murdered so that they could keep an eye on the black and brown people there who were mourning. What are you going to do about what's happening with policing? Donald Trump says he wants to empower the police departments. He wants to end the anti-police sentiment in our country. And he wants to send more surplus militarized weaponry to our police departments. We white people don't encounter this, and Congress is white, and the Senate is white. What are we doing to protect our brothers and sisters of color in this country? That's what I'd like to know what you're doing.
In terms of race, we probably didn't talk enough about race tonight. I would say one of the things we touched on was the Voting Rights Act, which really is about race. It's one of the top priorities for the Congressional Black Caucus. The other thing is we're working on trying to reduce the amount of incarceration, because that disproportionately affects the African American community. And finally, I held my first town hall at the Muslim Center in Claremont. I think thank you. They had a good room that accommodated us, but I wasn't scared of the symbolism that this is a part of our community, and we can't be scapegoating each other. That's dividing us, and we need to be united. The final thing I would just say is remember the importance of real facts, not alternative facts. And that's really how we're going to have to win this battle, is getting that word out.